Welcome to Aliens with the Girls for the second time. I'm your host, Sidney.
I'm your co-host, Julia.
And I'm your co-host, Michael.
And we're going to get into some freaking alien stuff in this podcast, guys. So I've personally always been interested in aliens, ghosts, demons, things from another dimension. And of course, that includes aliens. How about you guys?
100%. I love supernatural stuff. I love aliens. I love ghosts. I love demons.
Period. I love demons. That's a clip. Send that
Believe
to
in
the
all of
Catholic
it.
Church
Very
immediately.
supernatural over here.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be sitting here if I wasn't interested in all of those things. But specifically, wait, did that sound kind of? I feel like that sounded kind of bitchy. Did
No,
that sound
I was
bitchy?
actually gonna say I was gonna interrupt you and be like, or would you not be sitting here if I hadn't cornered you at Sam's Halloween party and been like, Julia, I got this podcast idea. Will you do it with me? And I wouldn't leave till you said no.
And
or
all
yes.
the
You didn't have a
pieces
choice.
fell into place. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. But
Wait, is this where I come clean and tell you that the only reason I went to that party is because I knew you would be there and I really wanted you to co-host this podcast with me?
stop.
I'm a-
You are a mastermind. I love it.
That
I'm a
is so
weirdo.
incredible, dude.
No,
I'm a
you
weirdo.
had a goal and you accomplished it. Here I am, sitting across from you.
She had a vision.
You had a
she
vision and you needed
actually
to
made
do
it
what you
come to
needed to
life.
do to make it happen, and you did.
Guys, thank
very
you.
And I'm so
commendable.
thankful that you brought me into this world. But no, I love all things like supernatural, which we'll get to when we get to my portion of the story. A little supernatural, a little wilderness nature moment. But yeah, everything that you're about to talk about is going to be probably new information, mostly to me. But
yeah.
Same.
Hell yeah.
that
I'm
just
excited
makes
to
me more
learn.
excited to learn more about aliens in this sector of the creatures of the other worlds.
Agree.
Okay, I love that because I also want to say to both of you guys and our listeners, potentially our viewers out there, I don't know that much about aliens either. So I feel like I am very much so diving into this topic because from the
With us.
very little research I've done, which you might see in this first episode because I was a little bit more production focused and that's okay. But I've realized through this research, there are some alien fanatics out there that really, and like, I don't want to label them as like crazies because we'll get into that a little bit later. How like I want to give some validity to these sightings that have been like spoken about in like mass media, which maybe the mass media has like poked fun at the people who've come forward. But I lost my train of thought a little bit. We are going to get into a lot of these like fun sightings.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this? Wait, I really started to
That
think
you are
about.
excited to like learn and like.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
You may not know everything.
I don't know
but
everything,
What we are
and
going to talk
through-
about is through different sources.
Yes, and through like these sources and these people that I've like heard like read stories about, there's a lot of information, a lot of people who've dug really deeply into very specific stories, and I feel like we're really just going to scratch the surface here.
Yeah.
But I think that's enough for us because again, this podcast is for the girls, for the gays. It's just to have some fun and talk about aliens, especially nowadays when I don't want to say things have felt a little dark recently.
It's been bleak.
Took the
been
words
tough.
right out of my mouth.
Yeah,
It's been brutal out here.
I just need this to be a little escape.
It's a little breath of fresh air.
A fun breath.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's just take 30 minutes, maybe 45, maybe an hour, depending
on
on
the
how
mood.
much we
Crazy.
yap, and chat about aliens together and just kind of like escape reality.
Please.
So, what we're going to get into during this podcast, by the way, this is going to be a weekly podcast. So, you'll have us every week yapping in your ear
Stuck with
if you
us.
tune in about aliens, which is going to be great. Dad, that's for you because you might be our main listener.
Yep, and shout out Jenna as well, who
out,
also
shout out.
is probably going to be one of our first listeners. So love you, girl.
Love that. Oh, hey, and you know what? I did this in the actual first episode we recorded, because, by the way, to everybody listening, this is round 2 of the
one.
first recording. We had some, let's say, technical difficulties last time, and that's okay. It was our tester.
As in, Julia didn't charge her camera battery, and I didn't even press record on half the episode.
I was going to say, let's also not forget to throw shade over here.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I was saying, I still wanted to shout out the gals at WLN, which is one of like the groups at our company. It's the Women's Leadership Network, and like some of my other, actually all of my other friends who I've been chatting with over the last year about starting this podcast, because this is super nerve-wracking, not super nerve-wracking, but a little scary to put a podcast out there. It's, you know, a little dorky, but they were literally so supportive and so sweet, just like Pickle's being right now. Pickle is
Michael is
through
Sydney's
my
cat.
legs. She's like,
I know,
clawing
she's
at
so
my
cute.
legs.
I don't know if you
adorable.
can see her in the video. I hope you can. By the way, this is going to be on YouTube for all like our listeners, Dad. But Pickle, my cat, like Julia said, she's acting a little crazy right now. She's really into Michael. So we're going to try and ignore her, but we'll see what happens over the course of this recording. Anyways, all right, let's get back into it. Shout out the WLN girls. Thank you for being so supportive. Because, again, this is scary to put out, but it's really nice when you're chatting about it, embarrassingly, because I can't shut up sometimes and I just overshare. And they were so excited and supportive, like, about it. And that's not always something that you, like, expect when you're talking about, like, a project that you're doing.
It's great to know that someone's supporting your passion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm not going to say aliens is exactly my passion, but, like, it kind of is, apparently.
A passion project.
It's
you
a
know,
passion
something
project.
that you want to explore more, learn more about.
Yes.
Just like our audience is going to learn with us.
Exactly. Dude, I've been
And-
so interested in it since the documents dropped in 2021, which I'm not going to go into exactly what that means right now, but that is something that we're going to focus on throughout, like, the course of this season. So let me get back to my freaking little notes that I have here. And basically give you an overview of like what's to come with this podcast. So each week, again, we're going to cover a different alien focused topic. It's going to range from what I just referenced, which is the U.S. congressional hearings, to the classics like Roswell or Area 51. And then we're going to go international with some stories from, you know, Russia. Then we're going to go to Europe. We're going to hit a few countries in there. There are some cool stories from Africa, from a couple countries there, which we're going to cover. So yeah, we will be going international. Ladies and gentlemen,
That's
Julia
so
and
exciting.
Michael. So hold tight. It's going to be a lot of fun. We already have, again, season 1 mapped out, and I truly can't wait to dive in because apparently this is a passion of mine. I guess I do get a little bit dorky about this topic, which is fun.
And we can't wait.
Yes.
I love the
But
passion project.
anyways, what we're going to be talking about this week is the New Jersey drone sighting, because I wanted to keep it a little topical because this just happened. So before I go into my story here, Julia, what have you heard about the New Jersey drone sightings? Taking out everything you know that we spoke about roughly in the first recording.
Well, with that considered,
Julia knows everything about it, but pretending to be dumb, Julia
I would
says.
say my first impression of the New Jersey drones sighting phenomenon that has happened recently is that there were these unknown drones coming out of the ocean, and the people of New Jersey were not aware of the origins of these drones, who they were sent from, what their purpose was, I guess, and that there was some uncertainty from the government as to valid reasons as to what those drones were, or they were just suspicious reasons that they gave the people of New Jersey, and that there's just a general mystery as to why the drones were there and what their purpose is.
A general mystery. I like that. Michael,
Yeah.
leaving out last week's knowledge.
Honestly, same. Yeah, I just remember I only saw really like that one TikTok of
The one that I sent you both
The one that
manically.
you probably sent me. I probably saw it. Whatever.
Yeah.
You probably did send it to me. But
So I know for a fact that I like manically texted both you and
yeah.
Julia.
There was a lot of stuff we
Did you
shared
guys
leading
see
up
this?
to it for sure. But that's really the only video. And like I maybe like read the comments of people talking about theories, and then I moved on with my life, I think.
Okay, love that. Love
Just
that.
because like there's so much going on, and I just was like,
There is a lot going on.
the next thing was, I don't know, more intense or something. Or I was also like, yeah, they're here. Duh.
Yeah, they're here. Well, we're going to get into that. We're going to cover actually a little bit about what I guess both of you spoke about since
Yeah.
you agreed with Julia. But let's get into it, guys. Okay, so let's set the scene here. All right, it's November 13th, 2024. So honestly, not that long ago. Like, think about Thanksgiving of this year, literally. Okay, and we're sitting in a car. We're in a forested area. We're in a parking lot of our office when suddenly we see a flash of light out of the side mirror, and you look up. Again, we're in a forested area, so you look out to the tree line, and slowly you see a glowing, rising object that's going straight up above the tree line and just hovering
chills.
there and then slightly towards you. But there's no identifiable propulsion. You don't know how it's moving, and you don't really understand how this big of a bulb is just hovering in the sky. It's not the sun, it's too close. You're a little confused. So,
Terrifying.
this is actually what happened to a consultant who was working at Picatinny Arsenal, which is, for those who don't know what Picatinny Arsenal is,
I'm surprised
uneducated.
if you don't, honestly.
Truly, you should absolutely know. Anyways, it's a top secret military research facility in New Jersey. Which, fun fact, it's basically like a giant weapons lab that's hidden in a forest. So totally normal.
Wow.
Yeah, super
wild.
normal.
Super
So-
unsuspicious.
And like picture it again, hidden in the forest. It's on about like 6,400 acres of land.
Wow.
So she's kind of secluded, you know? And they do, again, it's a giant weapons lab. They do like weapons improvement, which I don't entirely know what that means. But again, that's the first initial sighting of these New Jersey drones that happened. And that was, maybe not that specifically happened. Let me take a step back. But that was acknowledged by either mass media or like the government, where we're like, okay, what actually are these? So again, that happened on November 13th, 2024. And that wasn't just a one-time thing. As I said, by November 18th, just 5 days later, reports of these drones were popping up, or I said drones, reports of these unidentifiable objects were popping up all over the East Coast, from obviously New Jersey, which is really where it started, but then going to, Pennsylvania, New York, all the way down to Florida. And people were seeing these things, again, like giant glowing objects hovering over different neighborhoods. They were seen over military bases, power plants, where other, really important, maybe government secrets are kept,
Yeah.
which is, not where you want to see giant unknown hovering objects.
right.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Makes
okay.
sense.
I agree. So
Super
these
sus.
like UFOs or drones, again, kind of getting into the description of what people are seeing again, they were huge. Apparently the size of like an SUV, and some they reported as fixed wings. A few people reported that there was a deep humming sound when they were like hovering around them. But again, there were really no signs of like propulsion of these objects. They were moving like it seemed freely within the airspace. And then it also seemed when you got close to them, they would, I snapped for those who can't hear me in the audio, they would disappear. Yeah, ASMR snaps for how the drones or UFOs would disappear. They would disappear if you got closer to them.
Like super fast too, like a typical.
Yeah, it would
kind
just
of-
all of a sudden they'd be like gone, or they would start like hovering away from you, like
so
at a
creepy.
faster speed. Yeah, very interesting. So again, these things seem to be popping up everywhere, especially on my For You page on TikTok.
Of course.
I really got into this
Your
again.
algorithm knows you well.
She knows me.
Like, oh, she's in Aliens. She's in
Yeah,
Aliens.
this
Oh,
girl
yeah.
loves
Let's send her
aliens.
some shit.
Yeah, and that's probably why I like again manically texted you guys immediately when I saw it happen,
We
because I
loved it.
think I literally
Yeah.
started shaking because I was like, they are coming. the aliens
I mean,
are
that is
here.
really
They're
scary.
showing us to everything. Oh, okay. Pickle got
Sorry.
ejected. No, she genuinely needs to get ejected at this time of her monthly cycle.
She was getting a little too close, and I was like, don't get comfy.
honey.
Pickle, you
my
naughty
goodness.
girl.
Anyways, so a lot of people, were posting about it, which is how it was popping up on my For You page. And some of them were starting to post like different theories. Again, these started like circulate on TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, obviously. And they span from like really fucking weird theories to theories that, I might believe. So let's freaking get into some of those. But
Yeah.
before we do, we are going to talk about what the government's response was once people started to actually like report these drone sightings and everything. And again, I keep calling them drone sightings. You'll hear about that in a second. But again, let's hear what the government has to say about this. So enter the Department of Defense. So around December 14th, the DoD releases a statement after they've heard about a lot more of these drone sightings starting to happen, and specifically a drone sighting that happened near a military base. So that's when, again, they started to get a little bit more heavily involved. December 14th, which is a month after these drone sightings actually started. So let's not discount or breeze over the month of no information.
Nothing.
Literally, people were seeing these all over the place, and the government was saying nothing about it. So there was a really big call from the people to say hey, we need some information here. We're literally seeing these unidentified objects hovering over our homes, hovering over secured locations. What the heck are
that's
these?
wild.
Yeah.
So again, finally a month later, when the DoD decided to get involved, no shade, they said, yeah, we saw them too, but don't worry about it. We really don't know who they belong to, but again, don't worry about it. It's fine. That was
drones are these?
that was the gist of what they were saying to the
God, that's
people.
so dumb.
And then meanwhile, the Pentagon, who we love, obviously,
Of course.
they come in and they say, yeah, the drones, they call them the drones, are flying, but they're not nefarious. So don't worry about that. Which is a low-key kind of sketchy, because do you guys remember the Chinese spy balloon that was floating over the Dakotas a few years ago?
I think I do.
Vaguely.
It was floating all about America, a little bit of Canada, Western U.S., and it was there for not too long, but we shot that baby down like it owed us money, And I'm sorry, if the U.S. government isn't immediately responding to these unidentifiable objects, quote unquote drones, they have to know what they are.
Yeah.
Of course.
They're not letting some unknown foreign object fly over
Just
our airspace.
beep, bop, boop
And
in the
then
sky.
give
No
a
way.
month
No.
of time
In a
Yeah.
month? No, I think we shot that
until
the
they
Chinese
actually publicly
respond.
show their involvement
Exactly.
and respond to it.
Exactly. We shot the Chinese spy balloon down within a matter of
Hours?
I should have done more research here. I want to say hours. That might be a lie. Could be days. But regardless, it
still.
wasn't months.
Yeah.
It wasn't months or weeks. It wasn't weeks. So, anyways, so of course, on this, they're also trying to blame these sightings that the people are reporting on, misidentified aircrafts, on different planets or celestial beings, potentially on mass hysteria, which yes, I am hysterical, but don't blame it on that. Also,
It's
maybe
a different podcast.
that is a different podcast. I won't even make a joke about that. But anyways, so since it sounds like the government isn't really going to give us any honest answers about this, let's get into some of those theories I found on TikTok.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay,
Let's figure
This-
it out.
first theory.
Let's get down and dirty.
Let's get down and dirty into some of these
get into
theories. Okay, this first theory, it was actually low-key sent to me by one of my dear friends, Maddie, shout out, and it's called Project Bluebeam. So let me first, before we get into Project Bluebeam, talk about our conspiracy theory king, who is Serge Monist.
Shout out.
Wait,
Is that a
Monist
person?
or Monsat? It is a person. Yes, he's unfortunately no longer with us.
Oh,
Rest in
R.I.P.
peace,
Sergi.
Serge. We
Rest
love
in
you.
peace.
But he was the man who brought us Project Bluebeam. And he was like, picture your classic like 80s conspiracy theory dude. Like probably a vest on, some crazy hair a little bit.
Very Einstein.
Very Einstein. His hair was like smoother. He actually had some
Suave.
pretty nice hair. But that's what he's looking like. And like a little bit of background on Serge, he was not just a conspiracy theorist. He was also a poet. So this man had some depth. Oh,
It was just
and he
oozing artistry.
if
Honestly,
there's
must be nice.
one thing about Serge is that he was oozing. Period. But okay, and then aside from a poet and a conspiracy theorist, he was a investigative journalist, which is so exciting. We love that for Serge. And anyways, he came up with the conspiracy behind Project Bluebeam, which we'll dive into. So this is the theory that there are global elites within NASA and the UN that are planning to fake a supernatural event, specifically the second coming of Christ or an alien invasion, to establish a totalitarian world government. So,
Not the craziest thing I've heard.
no. Okay, so
Let it out, baby. Let it out.
The idea here, before Michael gasses us to death, is that they're going to be staging, like, again, this second coming of Christ or this alien attack so the global elites can throw the world into chaos
so
and I guess
crazy.
take over. And what they're really trying to do is create and really dismantle all religions so there can be a single religion that's formed and therefore like a single power formed through that religion,
And
where
the people that
governments
created the
will start
religion,
taking.
like afterwards, would be like the
Yes.
powerful people.
Yes. So getting like a little bit deeper into Project Bluebeam, it's that NASA is coming up with different technologies, such as like holograms, that will be able to make a hologram over whole countries and even the whole entire world.
Dude, what?
So they could potentially like stage the literally like Jesus coming back to the world and it be seen throughout different countries. Or
Because it's a hologram around the
maybe
earth.
exactly, or
That's
maybe
insane.
an alien invasion that throws everybody into chaos
Dude,
because the
what?
aliens are coming, and then because everybody's in chaos, maybe we don't turn to our governments, maybe we do turn to the United Nations, and it's the global elites running the United Nations according to Project Bluebeam, that they'll take care of us, and that's how they will form that new government, because all of our governments have crumbled.
That is
Wow.
so crazy.
That's
that
crazy.
makes so much sense. It's also like, I feel like it feels like a sci-fi movie I've seen.
Okay, so
know what I mean?
hilarious that you say that, because this theory is actually tied to a Star Trek episode.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, way. And I
Huh.
don't know if Serge saw this episode, or if maybe his theory came before this episode.
Oh my god, I hope it came after.
All hilarious
Oh gosh.
options.
Wait.
Honestly, either one's hilarious.
Yeah,
like
fair.
if
he could have just
the
made that up in his head too.
if the
like-
writers heard of his theory and were like, I'm going to put this into a Star Trek episode,
100%.
or if Serge saw
That's
this Star
fair.
Trek episode and was like, I'm going to make a whole theory
God,
that's
that's
going
rude
to
of
go
them to
national.
make a full episode about that.
Hilarious. So again, but going back to this, like, again, having something, that really, I don't want to say destroys all governments and religions, because that sounds a little crazy for me to say, but maybe something that does bring the world together and unites us a little bit. Like, would that be so bad? Would it be bad if we had an alien invasion to bring us together?
That's fair.
I don't
honestly.
think any opportunity for unity at this point would be a bad
Yeah,
thing.
like
So-
if that becomes our whole world, like okay,
Julia,
this is different.
Michael, pro alien invasion.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
awesome. Clip it.
Write that down.
Clip
Write that
that,
down. Write that
clip
down.
that.
Write that down.
Clip
Write
it.
that down.
So the thought of this, let's tie this back to, again, the New Jersey drone sightings, which is what we're talking about today.
Yes.
The thought was that these New Jersey drone sightings was the first phase of Project Bluebeam, or maybe a test run for what's to come in Project Bluebeam, causing a little bit of mass chaos, seeing how the public responds to it, and going from there.
I have a question.
I have an answer, I hope.
Period.
Do you think that Project Bluebeam, or I guess maybe, let me rephrase it. Do you think that the government expected the response that the American public gave in New Jersey?
Maybe going along with Project Bluebeam, maybe they were stoked with what we did and that we made such a fuss about it on like social media because they're like, this is what we want.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah. So, good question.
Food for thought.
That's a good question.
It was a good question. But who freaking knows? Anyways, wrapping up Project Bluebeam, let's take a step back and also take this with a grain of salt, because along with our buddy Serge, who we kind of love, but I didn't really kind of wrap up his story. Serge, he passed away, unfortunately, in 1996
Sergey, baby.
when he was 51 years old, and this was right after he had been arrested by the U.S. government. But was he arrested and did he die the next day because of his theories?
Oh my God!
Was he
stop.
getting too close?
Come on, CSISVU.
Kind of like a whistleblower. Like,
Was he a whistleblower? We don't know.
That's crazy.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
that
I could
just
see it.
Who's to say? Yeah. I
who's
mean,
to say? He did have his kids taken from him
Oh,
Jeez.
because he wanted to homeschool them and really just put them with or feed them with his ideology, which wasn't great. So I don't think Serge was maybe the kind of guy I would want to get a beer. Well, no, wait, that's a lie. I would want to get a beer with him.
I don't want him to be my dad.
I don't want to invite him over to my house. I don't want to
even
garden
there.
with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's personal.
That's
having a beer
For me
with
and my
him would
friends.
be, I feel like, almost transformational.
well, I don't know if we want to transform in this way.
Julia's sold
Because-
on Serge.
Be like-
Also, wait, I never finished my sentence because I wanted to cap off who Serge was.
Oh, for sure.
Dear listener. But again, let's still take this whole theory, Serge maybe even included, with a grain of salt, because this was also perpetuated by that asshole Alex Jones, who made those horrible comments about like the Sandy Hook shootings. And like
Yeah.
once you get into this like deep conspiracy realm, it
Fuck
starts to
Alex
get-
Jones.
Yeah, that's our
Clip that.
honestly, if we're gonna have one stance, that's gonna be our stance.
Yeah, 100%.
Which might not be a great stance, especially if we're dabbling in like the conspiracy theory realm of podcasts. Let's get canceled by Alex Jones.
I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good goal.
We can take that
Add
out.
that to the goal list.
Writing that one down.
Okay,
Yeah, we can
note
take
that,
that out.
producer. Okay, anyways, so that was just our first little theory that we had to speak about. The next one we're gonna get into, I think, is a lot of fun, because it's with our dear gal Bethany Frankel. Do you guys know Bethany Frankel?
We do. We know
Yeah.
a little bit.
She's a housewife?
Yes. Okay, so Bethany Frankel is a real housewife of New York City. And I'm going to be super honest. I haven't watched The Real Housewives of New York City, but I know
on the
enough to know that Bethany Frankel is low-key an icon. If not, like, on The Real... Well, no, obviously on The Real Housewives of New York, but also, like, a social media queen.
That's how I know her. She's like an internet personality.
She's a personality. Yeah. She's like iconic personality hire to a T. So, anyways, believe it or not, our gal Bethany has a theory on these UFO sightings.
Use your 15
So-
minutes. Have your moment.
I mean, Bethany Frankel doesn't need 15 minutes. She's a million minutes.
fair.
But
Wow, that's a long time.
anyways, so Bethany Frankel, she lives in New Jersey. And she heard all about these drones, obviously, because they're happening all around where she lives. So she decides to go drone hunting. She calls her driver,
Woman on a mission.
Hell yeah.
woman on a mission,
Calls her driver.
That's
calls her
amazing.
driver,
Amazing.
says, hey, drive
go
me
on a
around
mission.
New Jersey until we see a freaking drone. And you know what she did?
Simple enough.
She saw a freaking drone.
Yeah, she did.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she did. She went
That's crazy.
full on drone hunter, UFO hunter, whatever these things are, hunter, and she freaking found one.
She wanted to figure it out.
And she went down a rabbit hole.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you. So she initially starts out by, just like, what are these things? I haven't seen one. Obviously, she goes drone hunting. I keep saying drone hunting. She goes, whatever these things are, UAP hunting, finds one. And then she really goes into it. in one of her TikToks, she claims that she knows a guy, classic, whose dad, follow me here, worked on top secret Pentagon and NASA projects. Shout out my socks. Sorry, I'm wearing my space socks.
Let's admire it for a second.
Thank you, Mom.
the
Beautiful.
gorge.
You did a great job.
Wait, your mom
My mom gave me
Sewed
these
them?
socks. No.
bought them?
Bought them.
Okay, word.
Yeah. She could sew them. She's a queen. But anyways, back to Bethany. This source that she knows, again, claims that, you know, his dad, who has worked on these top secret Pentagon and NASA projects, according to this mystery man, these drones, which he says are drones, they belong to us. They are part of a potential military operation.
Let me just
So-
recap really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Bethany Frankel knows a guy who says,
She knows a guy whose dad has been part of these secret projects, so he has like
and says that they're drones.
yes, he has insider
scoop.
information.
The inside
Got
scoop.
you.
Yeah, he has that scoop. So he says that these drones are ours. Which I kind of believe, again, because they didn't shoot them down immediately. There was such a slow response, and the government, what like the DOD and Pentagon had previously said, which we talked about. But anyways, so he says that they're not just drones. Apparently, these bad boys are sniffing out something dangerous. So like an old, you know, W or weapon from the war. What war? I don't really know what he was referencing.
war.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
general war.
Wait, I didn't cite my sources. Really quick pause. Shout out Wikipedia. That wasn't my only source, but it really
them.
does have, pay them. They really do have great information. I also use the source from an Indian like news media outlet, which gosh darn, we'll put in our show notes freaking apparently. But like shout out to both them because that's where I got literally all of this information.
There you go.
Especially,
We'll link sources.
yeah, we'll link sources for sure. I hope I save them.
In
They're
the
my
in the
history.
bio of our video, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to find our sources linked there. And if you're
Boom.
listening, then just
do it in-
reference
we'll do
the
it in
YouTube
Streaming.
bio.
Yeah.
Or
Thank
Go fuck
you for
yourself.
saving my
I don't know.
ass.
Cut it. Cut it. Sorry. Cut it.
I'm dead. Okay. So, anyways, so it could be again something from like a previous war that had happened, or like an atomic something or nuclear something that's leaking. Something again nefarious that the U.S. government doesn't want the general public to know about. So. Anyways, this source, he's freaking freaked out. And he even thought about like literally moving his whole family because apparently radiation spikes were happening in the areas that the drones were, you know, sighted in. And this again going along with that insider knowledge that maybe these drones are seeking something out that is leaking this kind of radiation. You know
Which
what I
could
mean?
be like
Yeah.
the drones are a good thing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it could be like trying to find radiation that's going to like,
And also trying to
Ruin.
avoid like panic,
Yeah,
mass
yeah.
panic.
Trying to avoid mass panic while also inciting slight mass panic, because you know, like this is happening, and like
This is
where's the
true.
government's response to this? Like, if something is happening that could affect like the people, wouldn't you want the government to be like, "Hey,
Hey,
you
BG.
in New Jersey, or
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
in this like area around this military base, maybe go on vacation. Here's a stipend. Here's a stipend. LOL.
Here's a stipend.
Go to Disney.
Wait, okay,
Here's a
but-
stimmy.
to be fair though, like,
Shout out.
what if, because what are they going to say? Hi, by the way, for today, we're going to have a drone test flying thing.
Yeah.
And then everyone's still going to be like, for what?
For what?
And if they say like, there might be like radiation leak, but like, don't panic, people are going to start to panic.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
sure.
like,
sure. Sure.
That also is like,
No, it
not
would be
killing them,
more mass
yeah.
hysteria.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
which I don't want to be on the side of government, but
Anyways, no, I agree with you. But honestly, like this theory, like even though it is kind of giving like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon,
yeah, fair.
I still kind of believe this theory the most, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. Because it seems like the most plausible. And like, even though, again, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, this guy's dad who used to work on these projects, like that's low-key still a connection. And like Bethany Frankel has to know some people. You know, the circle that she runs in.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was Bethany's theory. Again, the one that I believe the most, I would say. And then the third and last theory that we're going to get into which I think I have a total of maybe 2 to 3 lines written about because it didn't interest me all that much, is a military operation theory. Okay, so this is basically that the New Jersey drone sighting was a secret military operation. So one congressman suggested that it was a Iranian mothership, because a lot of these drones, Julie mentioned this earlier, were coming from the water, or seen coming from the water.
So they were like, they picked a country on the other side of the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't know what this guy was thinking. I'm
Really,
gonna be
yeah, that makes sense.
so yeah,
Iran
literally.
for sure.
Literally. I tried to watch
That's possible.
like a C-SPAN or something on YouTube of this guy telling us like why he thought this was an Iranian mothership. I couldn't get through like the first 2 minutes. It was only 6 minutes long. I couldn't get through
You're
it.
only
Yeah.
so strong.
I'm only so strong, and
So
I
brave of you
just
to even
yeah.
try.
Yeah.
there's something about that type of person.
Drag her.
I just want to punch.
Drag
Yep.
him.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to shit on. Ooh. I guess shit on a congressman too much, but here we are.
Okay, violence is not always the answer, but
Shitting is, though.
sometimes shitting is quite almost always the answer.
Just when in doubt,
Tea.
shit on him.
Like any type of stomach problem you might have, shitting
Great.
probably will help.
You guys know Miralax, the devil's
Yeah,
nectar?
100. Devil's
Do-
nectar.
The devil's
Do I?
Like
nectar.
the God's juice.
I have a story about Miralax
just kidding.
actually.
All right, well, let's get into that story here in a second.
Also another podcast.
Okay,
That's-
wait.
That's
real
for
fast.
later. That's
real
for
fast.
another time. No, cut it.
Real fast, closing
go
this
back
out.
To,
We all
go
love
back to your
Miralax.
theory. 'cause
Closing this out, guys.
Sponsor us.
Miralax sponsor us. This theory about the Iranian mothership, it was debunked pretty fast. And honestly, again, I really didn't go into that too much further. So, period. That is the end of that theory. So, again, quick conclusion for us on these 3 theories that we covered about the New Jersey drone sightings. I think there was actually a little bit of good that came out from this, from like the general public's like outcry for information. It really did spark a huge push for more government transparency within UFO or UAP sightings,
which is great.
which is awesome. And there's actual legislation in the works that's again aimed towards collecting more data on UFO and UAP encounters. And actually,
Also, sorry, UAP
Yeah.
is.
unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Got you.
Yes, and UFOs, unidentified foreign objects.
Cool.
So I'll use those kind of interchangeably. They really did use the acronym UFOs up until probably the last like 4 or 5 years, and they've since changed it to UAP once it got more traction within like government institution. I think they
makes
wanted
sense.
it to be a little bit distant from the
Media side of UFOs.
kind of from like the bad vibe that
Yeah.
UFOs have. Not bad vibe, what am I trying to say?
There's like
Bad
negative perception.
perception, the
Totally.
bad perception that UFO, that term, has gotten over the years.
Yeah.
So anyways, a little bit of a tease for next week. We're going to actually be diving into the government's involvement in some of the most recent alien craze, which really kicked off again in 2021 when they released, during like the height of COVID, the unidentified or declassified government documents that talked about UAP and UFO sightings, where they covered about, I think it was 81 or like 100 sightings. You know what? Let's say roughly, I'll correct myself next week. Let's say it was 100 sightings. 80 of them they were able to identify. 20 of them are true UFO UAP sightings.
Wow, that's
and we're going to
wild.
dive into that a little bit next week because that's freaking interesting.
Exciting.
Again, that's
That's
what
actually so exciting.
it's so
Yeah.
exciting. And it's really, again, I said earlier that like aliens wasn't really my passion. It sparked my interest when this came out because I'm like, okay, so this isn't just like a silly thing that people have been speculating about for years. Like, the government's actually acknowledging this. Why aren't the girls talking about this?
Yeah.
Like, let's freaking dive in, because I didn't see it on like the media I watch, which is again,
It's
not,
always in a
you know?
fear-mongering way.
Yeah, and I think it's can be light, it can be interesting,
Yeah.
and I think it's kind of fun.
You can still
It
stay
is.
informed and have it
exactly
fun.
Exactly. So again, that's what we're gonna dive into next week. Again, the government's finally admitting something about UFOs and UAPs, so we gotta dive into that, obviously. So I guess in the last segment of this story. What do you guys think? Do you guys have a specific theory that you guys are believing the most? Are you pro Project Bluebeam? Are you Bethany
I
Frankel?
low-key am pro Project Bluebeam.
Maybe?
Only, not because I want it to happen.
Yeah.
Only because, like, it feels like the most possible with, like, the trajectory our country and, like, humanity is going.
Okay,
in
so
a
a little
way.
scary. Yeah.
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 Like, I feel like it's just, like, that makes sense.
Maybe
I could totally see it.
next, because we already have this season mapped out, but maybe next season we can really get into Project Bluebeam because there
Yeah.
is so much information on it. And honestly, I say so much information. I've seen a few podcasts that really dive into it, but it's interesting because a lot of information on the internet gets scrubbed really quickly when Project Bluebeam like gets spoken about. Like that, you
Wow.
can't really find a lot of Serge Monist,
interesting.
writing
yeah, I don't
on
care.
the internet, which is pretty interesting.
That's
And
very
again,
interesting.
Something to
kind
think
of
about.
talking about his death that I mentioned earlier. Maybe that's again something we really need to dive into because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But anyways, Julia, thoughts?
Yeah, Bethany Frankel. I mean, I just adore Housewife, so I'm just gonna have to say that I think her theory is pretty plausible and that it's interesting to hear her perspective and what she was able to find out through her, as you said, Sid. Like,
Connection.
we're making an assumption that she has a well-connected circle,
Yeah.
which is not a hard assumption to make. And I think Project Bluebeam is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm necessarily
Convinced.
100% convinced about Project Bluebeam, but I think once we dive more into each episode and maybe in season 2 we get more into Project
Yeah,
Bluebeam.
totally.
Maybe
That
more
might
into
change.
conspiracy theories next episode or next
Yeah,
season.
I think I need to know more about them as an organization, but
And also maybe like
The
seeing
global
the
elites.
other theories that like I want to understand everyone's perspective on
Yeah.
this because like it would help me figure out which one actually makes the most sense
Oh.
in my brain. You
and
know
where
what
I
mean?
land
And there's so
on
many
that
theories about.
spectrum,
You
for lack of a better
is.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To all of it. We're gonna freaking dive into all
Hell
of it.
yeah.
Diving
There
in.
is not enough time to talk like I want to about this subject.
We can make time
Thank
for
God.
you, baby.
For you, baby.
Thank God.
There will always
Okay.
be time.
But anyways, that is our little story on the New Jersey drone sightings, whatever might be happening out there. We don't know. Maybe we're a little closer to knowing after today's episode. But let's bring it a little bit back down to earth.
Also, let us know what you think.
Oh,
In the comments.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
a little call to
theory is.
action.
Come on, CTA.
CTA.
We want to know what y'all think.
Put it in the comments
three of you
wherever
that
you're
listen.
commenting. Put it in there.
Put it in.
But anyways, coming back down to earth.
DM us.
Julia,
Coming
tell
back
us
down to
something.
earth.
Tell us
please.
something.
Okay, so we're back down to earth. At least what I've been doing recently is, I don't know how many of you are aware of the TV show Yellow Jackets.
Okay, wait.
Live.
I've heard really good things, but I don't know that much about it, and I'm desperate for a new show.
Okay, so
And I've
Tells
only
me.
seen season 1.
I know you've
Oh,
seen
you
season
have season
1.
I've seen
How
season
many
1.
seasons are there?
So they just came out with their 3rd season. So
Oh, hell yeah.
there are episodes being released
Okay.
on a weekly schedule now,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
is making my weeks so much better
And I
now.
was going to say, I hate that. I don't want to
Oh.
wait.
Here's the thing. I saved
wanna
them
know.
up.
See, I need that structure because otherwise I'll binge it in a night and then
Yeah, that's fair.
that's
Okay,
then
wait.
that's it. I don't appreciate it as
Yeah.
much.
Can I say that's literally what I do when things come out week by week? I save them up until just before the last episode.
And you watch all of them?
And I binge.
Okay, I
it.
don't think
makes
that's
sense.
It's so
necessarily a
fun.
bad
It's
thing.
so
I
fun.
just think that it leads me to not appreciating it as much.
Fair.
When I'm
Fair.
binging it because I've done that like for Squid Game season 1 I binged that all in one night, which like wasn't good for my mental
yeah, that's
health.
intense for one night.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was
God,
like
girl.
that was like not a good time. But it just I feel like I like miss things about the plot.
Sure,
So
and I
the
do.
structure is nice.
Okay,
but
fair.
Yellow,
Yellow
Jackets
Jackets.
basically set the scene is about a teenage girl high school soccer team that is going to their championship game. They're a very talented team. Their plane crashes. They're stranded in the wilderness. And
And
they
what
don't
it's in it like 8 girls and 1 or 3 guys.
Oh my God, plane crashes right now. So
So
hot.
it's the varsity team, the JV team, the coach, and I think the coach's family as well.
Yeah.
So there are different, like multiple different parties, I guess, if you will, on this plane when it crashes. And so obviously people are killed in the crash, but there are survivors. And Yellow Jackets as a TV show follows the teenage storyline of these young women and also their coach and, you know, a few other of the members that were on the plane crash through their time in the wilderness and how they survive, and also flashes back or forward, I guess, to their adult lives of the survivors that we know of. So that is the structure of the show, and
I love that kind of structure.
Is
Yeah.
so awesome. It
It
is
works so
such
well.
an
What's like the
original
vibe of it? Like, is it? It's kind of
it's
giving
spooky,
like Lost.
It's giving Lost, but a little bit darker and a little bit grittier.
Very
And
creepy.
I just love that it gives Lord of the Flies.
Oh,
Yeah.
But
okay,
it's
good
like
reference.
almost all female.
And also we love
Oh,
a
love.
lead
It's an almost
female.
all female cast,
Love.
which is just so beautiful and just like there's
like
just a
sisterhood about
grittier
it.
like,
Yeah.
the things that go on, because pretty much when they're out in the wilderness, what ends up happening is, you know, there are a few things that go on without, you know, spoiling for the audience if you haven't seen it, but not only are they, you know, battling the elements, like they're surviving the wilderness in winter with basically no supplies. They're all teenage girls.
Do you think you could do that?
No, I don't think I'm built for
I
that.
could either. I was in Boy Scouts up until like 2 years
Girl Scout.
before you would do like Eagle Scout or whatever you like end up with.
Oh, it was Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I didn't like camping. Isn't that so lame?
You don't like camping?
I know I love camping now, but when I was a kid, we had to
Didn't
backpack.
like
I
it.
hated
Oh,
it.
you
I
know
was like, I
what?
just want to be playing with Barbies.
My brother also. We went. Okay.
Incredible.
I think that tells a lot about the person who you are today.
100%.
Here we go.
Now I love nature though.
An early journey. But talking about Boy Scout camp, my brother, he went to Boy Scout camp. My mom says that she's never seen him more miserable in his
it's
whole
tough.
life. He hated it. We saw him and he looked like a soldier in the
He's an
war,
indoor
like
guy.
World
He's
War
an
II.
indoor guy.
He was an indoor guy.
Yeah.
We
You
love
know what?
him. Shout out Ben. I
Not
hope you're
everybody's
listening.
an outdoor guy.
No, I loved it, and I'm delusional enough to think that I could actually survive in the wilderness.
Honestly, I feel like you could.
I feel like you could too. You'd
I
be
watch a
able to
lot
make
of
it.
what is it called? Surviving Alaska. What's that show?
Is there like Alone?
Survival.
Alone.
Alone.
Oh,
that's
Alone
what, no,
is-
that's what it is.
Alone is
That's
great.
what it
Also,
is.
Naked and Afraid. Have you seen that?
Not yet, but
I
I know
haven't.
it's the
Afraid
same
is great.
vibe,
I don't want to be
That's
naked
like
and
Alone is
afraid.
so
less
good.
like serious, but
Yeah.
still great.
Yeah, I love. They make like really cool like houses, and I think I'd make a sick house.
With the tarps and
yeah,
stuff.
I think I'd be.
I
Great
would
at
totally
That.
listen to your ideas if we were stranded and needed to like
That's awesome.
survive.
I feel like I'd get pretty aggressive, so that's great news.
I would listen to it because I'm much more of like the follower. If someone has a plan,
Oh.
let's figure it out. Let's make it
Well,
work.
I think we kind of learned that we took before we started recording today. We took a not a Myers-Briggs personality test,
It
but
was
a personality
the Adobe
test.
Creative
the
Personality
Adobe
test.
Creative, sponsored
Sponsor
by.
us.
Sponsored by
Adobe.
Adobe.
Anyways, okay, we're going off on a tangent. I am sold. I think I'm gonna start watching Yellow Jacket.
Please. So I have somebody to talk about it with.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I
okay,
haven't.
done.
I also wanted to say there's a little bit of a demonic thing in it, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
There is the hint that there is a supernatural element to what the girls are experiencing out in the wilderness.
Which is
like
like-
there
Interesting.
is a vibe that they're not the only ones that are out there.
Yeah.
So that's a really fun element that the show runners and the producers play with, or whoever the directors. I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah.
But there is that element of, okay, is it supernatural? How much of that is into play here, or are they just losing their minds and hallucinating this?
Not a
or-
spoiler. One of the main ladies eats dirt
So true.
when she's sleeping.
Yes.
She sleepwalks and goes to her garden and eats dirt, and
Yes.
no one ever explains it. Apparently, still in season 2.
Michael has
and
absolute
I'm so upset about it.
such beef
'cause
with the
why
fact
is
that the
she eating dirt?
storyline. has
hopefully
not
that's a
been
season
resolved yet.
3 storyline.
It fucking better be.
It's still it. I mean,
Because
there's
that's why I think it's a possession.
every
thing.
character is interesting in their own way and has their
Yeah.
own struggles, and I think that they portray these characters in a really
it's good.
I'm
interesting,
excited. You
complex
painted the
way.
picture really well. I'm
Yeah,
interested.
you definitely did. It was
So if you
extremely
don't watch
accurate.
Yellow Jackets, you should.
If you don't, you're a loser.
And with that,
With that, I think that's a wrap on episode 1, guys. Yay! Good job. For those of you listening, thank you so much for listening.
for listening.
Shout out
Thank you.
again, Dad, our number 1 listener, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know who's gonna listen. to mine.
But also, again, tune in next week. We're going to talk about some declassified government documents, and we'll tease a little bit of, the following week's episode after that. We're going to have a fun season 1. We have about 10 episodes lined up, and it sounds like we're already mapping out season 2. So it's going to be a fun little project that we're working on.
Come
Aliens
learn
the
with us.
girls. Yay. Okay,
Period.
join us next week. Thanks, guys.
see you next week. Bye.
Bye.